Today we're going to take a look at the Oklahoma Geological Survey's Well Viewer application, which is an interactive spatial mapping tool that allows us to look at different data sets pertaining to geoscience materials and natural resources throughout the state. So first we'll take a look at some of the basic functions. And here we have the home screen, the layerings, and the legend to begin with. And real quickly, we can take a look at some of the different map layers, which can be toggled on and off depending on what we want to view. Another option is just to zoom in here. We have our section, township, and range grid on, and we'll go down to the map labeling, which will actually show different wells as they are distributed throughout the state. Now here again, we're using the Oklahoma Corporation Commission data set, and we also have our in-house INRIS data set. That's the Natural Resources Information System. Combine these two data sets generate the composite of our master well records database. And again, here is the legend, which will denote the different types of wells that we're looking at. Another feature of the Well Viewer application is the base map utility, which allows us to toggle on and off different base map views depending on which we would prefer to look at. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to default to the topographic layer. For downloading well logs, we have a basic search criteria that enables to search for different logs. Right now I'm going to use the API number for an existing well number that I'm certain we have a log for in the system. But one of the first things we're going to want to do prior to viewing logs is down here in the sidebar, we want to download the Preview Log Viewer app, which is essentially a TIFF viewer, which will allow us to view the logs once they're downloaded. And here we have a listing of the available log types for this given well. And we're going to select a couple electric logs for demonstration. And again, we'll be able to download these to your computer and save them to be able to view going forward. And you'll notice here that the system generates a compressed folder with the logs that we've selected. And once they are downloaded, we will be able to view within the Previewer application. Right now, we're going to take a look at one log in the viewer, and we'll show the single view. Here is the electric log that we've selected. Now, the TIFF viewer app itself has a lot of useful tools that we'll explore a little bit of those here as we do a side-by-side view of two logs that we've downloaded. Now, again, this is the Weatherford TIFF viewer application, so some of you may be familiar with that. So we take the second log here and add it to the existing log that we've viewed, and now we have a side-by-side view of both logs. The side-by-side view enables a couple useful analytics that are built into the TIFF viewer app, such as the ability to generate a cross-section or any other spatially oriented metrics. For example, we'll throw in a horizontal line just to show a demonstration of some of the tools that come along with that TIFF viewer app. Next, we'll look at downloading some core photos. Similar to the electric logs, we'll go ahead and enter into an API number that we already know of an existing well, of which we have core photos. And we'll go ahead and zoom on the well here. And on the sidebar, this will bring up the core photos that we have accessible in our system. So we have some bud images and some slab images here, and they're arranged according to depth intervals. And we'll just randomly select a couple to view. Now you can view as many as you want. These are going to be available to preview as well as download. Now, most of our core photography has been scanned at a resolution of 600 dpi, so this will enable a pretty tight zoom on some of the features of the core, which going forward, this will be a helpful tool for remote viewers who will then be able to schedule layouts within the system as well upon viewing the core photos. And again, we can cycle through the previews that we've selected up here just by choosing the different arrows. And we can go through the different depth intervals that we have available for that core. Here's another slab box, for example. And again, these are available to preview as well as download. Now let's take a look at viewing and downloading some core analysis video. Again, we'll enter our API, and we'll go ahead and zoom on that well. And we'll pull up a selected core analysis video for demonstration purposes. And again, we have the depth intervals listed. And we'll select one video here. And just like the well logs, the system will automatically generate a compressed folder, and we'll just open that folder up to select the file, which we can now view. We'll have a variety of different core analysis videos to choose from. This is just going to be one of the types of core analysis that we'll have available for demonstration purposes. So that gives us an idea of some of the basic file types that we can view through our API search for specific wells. But let's take a look at some of the map layers that we have available through the system to utilize some of the more broad dataset driven layers. So for example, we'll open up our layers here and take a look at some of the mud logs we have. And each one of these dots represents a well for which we have a mud log that has been scanned and inputted through the system, which is available for download. And here are some of the electric logs that we have, about 100,000 in the system right now, as well as some core photos. And this layer represents some of the physical core that we actually have at our repository. So those would be available, ideally to look at in person. Now, as we get into the digitization of our publications, we have quite a few that we've amassed over our previous 100 years of geological scholarship, and we're anticipating these to be viewable as a discrete map layer, which here we can zoom in concert with another layer, which is the section, township, and range grid. And there's a helpful utility, which is the ability to adjust opacity for when we're looking at multiple layers. Now, all of these layers are basically the offerings of our initial pilot beta of the Well Viewer application. So in terms of mapping and other digitization projects for our publications, for example, we have a couple play maps that we're planning on incorporating into the system in the not too distant future, as well as expanded search criteria and just expanding upon our existing data sets. And finally, here we're zooming in on a surface geological map, just to illustrate another mapping layer that we hope to expand upon. So again, everything we've seen here today is the culmination of basically a 6-month project where we were tasked to generate a pilot beta for this application. And going forward, we're planning a lot of expansions upon the existing platform into what we're calling a phase 2, for which we have been successful in receiving some funding towards. And on that note, we would like to thank our sponsors, without whom this would not be possible. And we will be communicating updates about this project through our website at ou.edu/OGS. And in the meantime, you are able to access the OGS Well Viewer pilot at the following URL. Thank you very much.